What's up, everybody? In today's video, we're going to clarify a question from a subscriber to this channel, which was, what is better to prototype as a style for a website or a web application? Is it Bootstrap or using regular CSS or Tailwind? Now, I'm not going to compare it to Tailwind. There's going to be another video, but I'm going to compare it to Bootstrap. So what is better to prototype a quick website to show to your client? Is it better to use Bootstrap or is it better to use CSS? We're going to find this out in the upcoming project because we're going to build this little landing page. Well, it's not actually a landing page, just a services page. And it should look something like this. So the client said, I want to have free cards for my free services and they should do something. So I created this in Bootstrap and then I created this in regular CSS. So which one do you think was the winner? This or this? Well, it was this, obviously, because the client came back with feedback because you can only do so much in Bootstrap. But in order to have something where the client could give me some feedback, Bootstrap is excellent. You can quickly throw out a page and then you can touch bases with your client and say, okay, we're going to do this and that in that way. So let's get started with the project. I'm going to show you how quickly you can achieve this. So first things first, we're going to create here, I just created a folder called code, slapped it in there, and within this folder, I'm going to create another folder called proto. We're going to have a prototype website, and it's called index.html. Hold on shift, exclamation mark. There we go. Also, if you don't have word wrap activated, go down here to manage component, toggle word wrap, or Alt Z. Okay, this should activate wall wrap. Also, I'm going to close up the Explorer and make this a bit smaller. Okay, perfect. So next up, we need to include Bootstrap here. But first, I'm going to create just a main here, a main tag. And within the main tag, I'm going to include a header and then a H1 with the title of check out our awesome services. Okay, so also opening up with live server, like right click, live servers. This should look like this. Now we're going to go to bootstrap.com. Yes, this is the landing page. And we're going to, should look like something like this. You could, by the way, you could also include it in your Visual Studio Code or in your project. You can install it. I also have a video on this. Just check it out on my channel, but not now. First, you're going to scroll down here and copy this to your clipboard, the CDN. Okay, so with the CDN copied, paste it in here before the title, and also we're going to change the title to Proto. There we go. So let's see how the website looks now. Okay, the font just changed. It doesn't matter what font we use. We can later on include Google Fonts and change the font. But in order for the client to have something, let's just use a regular Bootstrap font. Now, next up, we go to our body tag, and we're going to use here a BG and a class of BG, so background color, and dark. Okay, let's hit save. We're going to have a complete background color. Now, because we have everything dark, we're going to change the text to a text-light. And there we go, there's a text. Okay, we could also add here deflex. Display everything as flex, or just leave it as it is. Now let's go to our main tag, and within it we have a header. We're going to add to the header the class of M, Y, and -5. This means that we're going to add 5 rem of margins on the y-axis. So let's hit save, and this should push this down. Now for the x-axis, we could do, let's go actually to our body and do a M, X, and auto. Nope. Let's delete that. So we added some margin, left and right. Now let's go to our H1. Because this is a title, we're going to add to this a class of title. We're going to increase its font size. So let's add a text center to it. It is push it in the center. And then again, a M, Y, and 5. Let's add just a bit more differentiate to it. So let's delete it. Now, after our header, we will have that section where those cards lived. So let's go ahead. I'm not going to close Bootstrap right now. So these cards will live in a separate section. So let's create a section right after the header. Let's create a section tag. And this is going to have the class of container, then dot deflex, because I want them to be in the displayed in the flex direction. And then we're going to add a gap of 5 rem to them, gap dash 5. And we can't see anything right now. But if we start creating our cards right now, so meaning we're going to create here a div with a class of card, and then a class of BG primary, just to have some kind of color. So BG primary will mean that we're going to have a primary, a blue color. Then let's also add a shadow to it. Shadow, to make them stand out. Shadow and dash LG. Okay, let's hit enter. We're going to see a blue spot there because we don't have any kind of content. Now, in order to keep those cards in a specific width, you could also add here a width, or add a style. For the style, add a width of, let's say, 18 rem. Okay, so there we go. We have now 18 rem as a width, and now the height will depend on what you add as a content. So let's go in here, and now I'm going to go back to Bootstrap and also include the CDN for icons. Now in Bootstrap, wait a second, you can also use icons, and they are integrated. So either use Font Awesome icons, or you can use Bootstrap icons. For this project, we're going to use Bootstrap icons. So we're going to go back to our Bootstrap website, go to icons, and I'm going to just click or right click, open a new tab, open this in a new tab, and you can search here for icons. Okay, now in order to include this, again, you can install it, but I would suggest that you scroll down to the bottom, and in the bottom you will see, there we go, there's the CDN link. So let's copy the link, make this smaller again, and paste the link in before your title again. So let's go back to our website, and now let's include our very first icon. So let's go into this div, the very first card. Let's do here a i.bi, meaning a Bootstrap icon, then dot again in a second class, bi dash shield and dash lock and dash fill. Okay, let's hit enter. It's going to see a small little lock, but because we want this to be much larger, we can now use a font size to it, add FS1 and then text dash center in order to center it. Enter. And also let's add some margins on the y-axis of 5 rem again, and there we go, a much larger icon. Also centered. Now all we need to do is go to the main container here of the card and also add a text of light in order to have a white color, if you wish so. If you know, we can leave it dark or change it to change this to warning, and there are a bunch of colors that you can use. By the way, I also have a complete Bootstrap course, so if you're so inclined, check it out on my website. That will be also down in the description below. Okay, now let's move on. Right after the icon, I'm going to create another div, and this is going to have the class of body. Now the card dash body class will hold everything that is in the card. And let's also give this a class of bg dash dark, and then text dash center. Okay, let's hit save. So there's the card body down here. Within our card body, we're going to create a F5. So right in here, H5 with a class of card dash title. And the text will be, let's say, service 1. Okay, there we go. Change this to capital S. So that's our very first service. And after that, we're going to add just a simple paragraph there with the class of card dash text and dot text dash secondary. And text secondary will add just a light color to it. Okay, so if I add here lorem ipsum of some sort, let's also make it shorter. Let's end the lorem ipsum right here after totem, some kind of totem. Okay, so that's a text light and a short lorem ipsum. Now we're going to copy this. So where's the card? There's the card. I'm going to close it up here. Copy it 2 more times, and we're going to have 3 services. Also change them up. So this is going to be number 3, and you should be number 2. Okay, let's hit save, and there we go. Now you can go to the client and say, check it out, sir. There's our 3 cards. Let's he will say, okay, but what can I do with them? Well, you can add some actions to them. You can add separate buttons to them. Maybe right after the paragraph, they're going to add the anchor tag that is going to just go nowhere. So just refresh the page for now. But yeah, then add it to go to a form. Then it's going to check it out, or there's going to add it to a. If you want to add the service to a cart or something like that, you can also do that. Now let's also add to this a class of btn, because this is going to create now a button and a dot. Then not a dot here, but a btn dash primary in order to stay within the same design. So primary, and let's add a text to it as go somewhere, or buy now, or check it out, or go somewhere. Okay, now I'm going to copy this, the button primary. Let's copy it and add it to this little fellow, and also add it down here after the paragraph tag. So we have 3 cards, 3 buttons. They already have that hover effect on them. And you say to the client, so what do you think? And he would say, well, let's change a couple of things. And from here, you would now need to switch to CSS, because the changes that you are making, for example, if I would do some kind of change to the background color of the card, I would need to set it to important, and the same thing over and over again. Or you would need to use SAS, to manipulate Bootstrap. So we don't want to do that. We're going to take notes, and we will say change the card, for example, like here. Make it hardly visible. Take out that header, because we have here header. Take that one out, make the icons much larger. Now you cannot do that in Bootstrap. This is the maximum height of the icon. So you need to go in there and manipulate things. So I'm going to show you how I created this one. And for this, we're going to create here, back in our code, go outside. Let's create another folder. And this is going to be production. So production. Again, we're going to create a index.html and a style.css file. Okay, let's go to our index.html. Let's create a boilerplate, shift, exclamation mark. And I'm going to automatically add here style, the link tag, which is going to link up my style.css. And also, I'm just going to copy it this time. I'm going to copy the icons, because I'm going to use the same icons. So let's copy the CDN for icons and paste it in here. And it's going to be production. So we already have our frame here. We have our main container and so on and so on. So I'm just going to copy everything that is in the main container, basically the whole website, and paste it into the body. Okay, so if I would open this up, live server, I'm going to see something like this. Awful, no problems. We're going to change this using CSS. First things first, go to CSS. Let's take out everything. Let's do a general reset. Let's just say here, margin 0, adding 0, and box size in border box. Perfect. Now I am going to do a couple of changes, a couple of class rename changes. So let's go in here, and you know what? Also going to delete all 3 of the not all 3, but 2 of the cards. I'm going to leave only 1 card. Basically, all 3 cards will be the same. So what I'm going to do is change. First of all, let's say here main. The main tag will have also the class of main container. Then the header will have no class. The H1 will only have the class of title, and everything they want to do to the title, going to handle then in CSS. Then the services section will only have the class of services container. So we're going to be extremely specific, services-container, and this delete everything that we have here, flex and margin. We're going to add that later on. Now for the card will have only the class of service, and also the style of width 80 rem will be deleted. Now I'm going to leave in this icon, but I'm going to delete everything that is in here. It is not needed at all. Okay, next up we're going to have a card body and so on and so on. Also not needed. I'm going to delete the entire div. And then I'm going to delete the class from H5. and the paragraph tag class, and also I'm going to delete the button. And I'm going to delete the button because, let me just show you here in a finished project, this button will do basically the same thing that all three buttons would do. So it is kind of too much information here for someone that is visiting the website. All three buttons do the same thing. So let's have only one button. Now this is input from the client, because when you're asking him, what are these buttons doing? Well, it's sending you to the service. But when you're taking a service, you are already taking all three of the services in this case. So we will simplify this to only one button, because this is just the services that you're getting here are already included, let's say, in the services package. So let's go back to production. So our production opened, and I'm going to copy now this service one time and paste it in 2 times. Okay, there we go. And now right after the section, so when the section ends, I'm going to add my button with the class of btn, and then btn. And yes, I'm going to leave it as primary. Okay, and let's just say get service. Okay, now let's move on to CSS and let's start styling it. Have some fun now. So first things first, the entire body. Let's grab into the body tag. Okay, I'm going to add here a font family of Arial. And I'm going to leave Helvetica out of it and just leave it as sans serif. Now I'm going to change the line height. You should do this in order to have obviously a uniform line height within all of the browsers. So line height 1.6, and then font size 16 pixels. And this is also important because different browsers will have different line heights and different font sizes. Okay, now let's work on the body. So the background for the body will now be a RGBA, no, just an RGB of 255 for the red, and then 0 for the green, 0 for the blue, resulting in a red background color. But what we're trying to achieve here is this. Now, why is this important, this radiant color? Because it focuses the user on the services. Okay, so the entire website is at the end, or the entire web page is at the end, a focus on the services. Okay, let's make this smaller a bit. Now, in order to have that focus, instead of having this red background, I'm going to change it to background. And let's just change this to gradient, and then circle, comma, RGB, and then add here 29.9, and then 84. This is going to be the first one, and the second one, and also this is going to have a 0%. And then the second one, so comma, RGBA, this will have a 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, and 1, and then this should take up 70%. And there we go. So we get the blue color happening there. Also, let me add here a word wrap. Okay, now last thing, change the color to hash DDD, and then make the entire website only 100 viewport heights. So the height will be 100 viewport heights. Now for our main container, we had our main section here in a main container. So let's copy this class, add it into CSS dot main container. And we're going to do here now a margin from the top. So let's push everything down a bit with 10 viewport heights. Okay, so the entire thing was pushed down 10 viewport heights. Now this would result in this scroll, which we don't like. So we need to change our height of the entire body to 90 now. Remember, this is always, when you push it down with 10 viewport heights or 5 viewport heights, you need to equilibrate the entire height. If you're using viewport heights, only then. Okay, next up, let's display this as flex. Then we're going to have a flex direction column and a justify content center. And also we're going to align the items to the center. Okay, next let's handle our title here. So we added to this a class of title. Now let's increase the font size by using font size 2.5 rem. Let's align the text to the center, so text align center. We're going to add a margin from the top of 2 rem. And of course, left and right will be then auto, but the text is already centered. Now, in order to make the text stand out a bit, you can also add a text shadow of, let's say, 0 pixels, 5 pixels, and 5 pixels, and an RGBA of just 0.5. There's a little bit of text shadow there. Okay, now let's push down the content here by adding a margin bottom of 5 rem. And now we can work on our services. So let's go ahead, get the service container dash container. We're going to display this as flex. We're going to add a flex direction. Oh, and this doesn't take effect because, let me just check. Oh, service container. Oh, we have a flex in the row direction. Next up, we're going to add some gap to it. So let's add a bit of distance of 35 pixels. And then we're going to add a margin to the entire section of 2 rem, top and bottom, and auto for left and right. Okay, and also overflow should be hidden. So overflow hidden. Perfect. Next up, we need to take care of each and every service in that section. So I'm going to nest here, service. I'm going to use nesting in CSS. If you never used it, it's the perfect moment to learn it. And we're going to add to each of them max width of 250 pixels. Now let's add some padding, 0.5 rem. And let's change the background color to RGBA. And let's just go with 0.3 this time. Okay, there's our services. Let's now do a text align center. You know, to have everything centered nicely. Let's change the border radius to 5 to 15 pixels. You can see those borders are trimmed now, trimmed down. Now, each and every effect we're going to have on these will have a transition effect. So I'm going to use transition all in order to have the transition in and transition out effect of 0.3 seconds and ease in out. This is my favorite transition effect. Now, I'm going to use the parent selector. I'm going to select the service. And when I'm going to hover over each and every service, use the hover, the service will change its background. And I'm going to just slightly change it by using an RGBA. Let's go here with 0.8 and 1 to each one of them. Okay, so if I hover over them, you can see they're getting a bit darker. Also, I want them to move up and down. So I'm going to use here transform and then translate on the x-axis. So translate on the on the y-axis to move them up and down. So capital Y. And I'm going to use the minus 10 pixels, moving them. If I hover over them, you can see they're moving upwards, minus 10 pixels. Now, within our services, we also have icons. So if you want to target a tag, you need to use a parent selector and then use the tag that you're targeting. In this case, you're going to use the icon tag. Now, I'm going to change their width. I'm going to change their width to 100% of the container. Change the font size to 4 rem, and I'm going to add to them a border radius. I'm going to see why just in a couple of seconds. So border radius of 50%, making them completely round, and then a bit of margin. So margin to the bottom of 1 rem. Let me scroll up here. So width 100%, font size 4%, border radius 50%, make them round. You can see it right now. Margin 1 rem. And now if I add a box shadow of 0 pixels, 5 pixels, 5 pixels, and RGBA of, I want to make it gray, so 252, then 251, and 251. And there we go. You can see we have that little light effect. Okay, so you can see it has border radius. And now it has also a light effect. Now also we're going to change those icons just in a couple of seconds. last thing that I want to add to the card is the paragraph tag. So let's grab onto the parent selector, paragraph tag, and let's increase its font size, actually decrease its font size to 0.5, 0.8 rem, and also change the color of the text to hash. We're going to go with a gray text. So I'm going to use a 989595. You're going to see we're going to have a light gray text. Now what I want to add here at the very last touch is a margin bottom of 2 rem, making me have much more space down here in the card. Okay, last but not least, the button. So the button, it has a class of btn. Let's grab onto it. It will display it as block first of all, not natively as block. Now let's change its width to have a fit to content, and let's add a padding to it. Padding 0.75 rem and 1.5 rem for left and right. 0.5 left and right. Okay, so our button is hiding here. I need to change. I'm extremely zoomed in, so I'm going to zoom out a bit. There's a little button. Let me also now add a border radius to it. So border radius of 10 pixels. You could add 15 pixels in order to have the same border radius. Let me just show you this. As here, for example, maintaining the same border radius, it makes it kind of a pill form. So please take care when you're adding too much border radius to the buttons. They tend to take up the pill form. I actually don't like it, so I would suggest leaving it at 10, still remaining like a button. And yeah, but if the client wants it, then please feel free to do so. Now let's take out the border. So border and none. Don't have any borders. Let's add a background color, RGBA of, I'm going to add here red color. So 1, 7, then 5 and 5 again. But it's extremely transparent. Now, when we're going to change the color, obviously to hash DDD in order to have that little transparent red effect. But if you want to make it visible, so if you, I think I would just hover over my face. But if we want to make it visible, then we need to add a hover effect to it. So first thing first, I'm going to increase a bit its font size. So font size 1 rem, and also let's add a cursor pointer in order for us to be much clearer that we're over the button. Okay, next we're going to add a transition as always, all, and 0.3 seconds. I would suggest that you remain within the same transition time span for each and every transition on one website. Okay, now let's add a hover effect. So effect hover to the parent selector, meaning to the button, and let's change the background color to a RGB. I could just copy this, so a RGBA, and just going to decrease or increase, actually decrease the opacity. So there we go. Okay, so pretty simple project, pretty self-explanatory. That, oh wait, let me just change the icons. Let me change just icons. I did promise that I'm going to change the icons. So let's go back here. And the last icon will be BI. It's going to be dash gear and dash wide. Okay, there's a gear icon. And then we have our shield lock icon. This is this one. The very first one. We'll change it to, just a second. We're going to change to speedometer. Speedometer. There we go. Okay, so these are the 3 services. We're quick, we're safe, and we can do stuff. We're gearing up to do stuff. So what do you think of these designs? Initial design, finished design, all of them inputs or communication between you and the client. So hope you enjoyed this project. If you did, give it a thumbs up. If you have any kind of questions or suggestions for future videos, please leave them down in the comment section below. With this being said, like and subscribe to the video, and I wish you all a lovely day. Take care. Happy coding. Bye-bye.